You have an absolute power within your grasp.
I have waited so long for this that now, with only a few days remaining for the House of the Dragon Season 3, I can barely keep calm. How time flies, eh? Game of Thrones set the bar so high that a prequel series was already a very ambitious project. Much to the delight of the fans, the show did not disappoint, at least not in the first season. Yes, there were times during Season 2 when it felt like the narrative was dragging a bit, but it was all a build-up for the ultimate showdown in Season 3. We have all seen the stage being set for the Targaryen Civil War, and now the rival forces are ready to face each other on the battlefield. So, how will the factions collide this season, and what will be the fate of the Iron Throne? Well, the early reviews are out already, and in this video I will attempt to give you a look into what you might expect from Season 3. The most encouraging thing that I have picked up so far from all the early reviews is that the third season is a massive improvement over the second. As Metro UK points out, fans who felt that the show suffered a dip would welcome the show's thrilling return to form. It is not only fast-paced, but also packed with major action. There is a fun bit of trivia that has come to my attention. It is a production record, where the makers used more stunt performers on fire in a single take than any previous television production. We all know what that means for the battle sequences featuring the dragons. I think one of the highlights of the first 4 episodes is the much talked about Battle of the Gullet. This was always supposed to be a battle of epic proportions, and the show does not disappoint. Almost every early review points to the brilliance of this entire battle sequence, and I am thrilled to see it play out. Mama's Geeky describes the battle as a massive, devastating spectacle, and I think we will all love that. In fact, all the battle scenes in the movie are well choreographed and brightly lit, so you don't have to endure what you experienced in the Game of Thrones finale, where the Dothraki vanished into the darkness and we watched a major part of the battle while squinting our eyes. The Battle of the Gullet is not going to disappoint you because it truly shows the prowess of Lohar as a warrior of the sea, and also the determination to get the better of Sea Snake in a battle. I would expect nothing short of a spectacle here because the showrunner Ryan Condal created quite a hype around this sequence in the months leading to the release. The premiere episode delivers an absolute banger in the form of the teased battle between Shirako Lohar's Triarchy and Corlys Valerian's naval fleet. The major takeaway from the naval battle is apparently Rhaenyra Targaryen's dragons entering the arena, and this is surely going to be a fun throwback of the time when Daenerys Targaryen torched entire fleets at sea with her dragons. What has impressed everyone is the violence quotient involved in the battles. We are hardened viewers used to the gore and graphic violence from Game of Thrones, and I expected the House of the Dragon to pack a punch in the third season. However, the early reviews suggest that the violence here is somewhat tame, even though this is not in a bad way. You still feel the thrill of the battle, just without squirming uncomfortably in your seats. There is no gratuity for the sake of shock value, and I think it is quite daring of the showrunners to attempt something so different from what the Game of Thrones fans are so familiar with. But the show is not all about the grandeur of battles, even though the Dance of the Dragon is what we have all been waiting for. The rest of the series is actually focused on Rhaenyra's battle for the Iron Throne, and this might seem a bit slow-paced for some viewers. Ben Traver's review for IndieWire explores this further, as he says that fans can expect to see class wars brewing, patriarchal undoings in the offing, and dragons threatening to break containment. I think it is a fitting part of the story because we will all want to know whether Rhaenyra is truly worthy of being queen and how she can handle the challenges that are thrown her way. It is actually a good thing that the third season picks up exactly where the second season left off. I hate the lack of a proper continuity, and the House of the Dragon does not disappoint. Rhaenyra has already met Alicent Hightower, where they agreed to some common grounds. Rhaenyra would take King's Landing and the Iron Throne, and this was probably the last bloodless path to the throne. Rhaenyra demands that King Aegon II will pay with his life, a son for a son, and Alicent even agrees to this. However, the true agreement between the two wouldn't hold because far too many factions are already in motion, and it is all set for a bloody battle for supremacy. The episode ended with a massive montage of the realm descending into total war. The Triarchy's ships are en route to break Valyrian's blockade, and the Stark forces march south as the dragons prepare prepare for combat. When people watched the first 2 episodes of the 3rd season, they unanimously agreed that the episodes felt like they should have been a part of the 2nd season. You may remember that the studio actually cut the number of episodes to 8 from 10, and maybe the extra episodes would have set things better for the 3rd season. But on the bright side, it still works wonders because the first 2 episodes are pretty eventful and explosive, including the Battle of the Gullet that I have already told you about. Among the first 4 episodes that have been up for an early review, the 3rd episode has been voted as the best one, and the 4th episode is somewhat questionable because of some of the things that happened rather unexpected. Also, I felt like The Hollywood Reporter's Daniel Feinberg was rather insightful when he said that the 3rd season felt too packed, too narratively rushed for this reason. Maybe it has something to do with the 2-year gap between the 2nd and 3rd season, which is really a long time. If I keep this aside, the show generally delivers and the fans are going to love this one after a relatively slow 2nd season. With a franchise like this, we expect a grand spectacle, don't we? Well, the 3rd season stays true to the promise and the production value is top-notch. The top-tier cast, the perfect costumes, incredible sets, and intelligent direction make it really good to watch. Moreover, the score from Game of Thrones veteran Ramin Djawadi hits the spot, and this is really fantasy television at its finest. And, of course, I have to talk about the dragons because almost every early review is going gaga over how remarkable they look on screen. Yes, they apparently don't get a lot of screen time, but when they show up, you wouldn't be able to take your eyes off them. As we all know, the franchise uses some of the finest visual effects artists in business to make these moments stand out, and it is surely worth the investment. I have already told you about the quality of the cast, so let's quickly check out some of the individual performances, as described by the critics in general. Emma Darcy has earned the most praise for her role as the conflicted Rhaenyra. Her anxiety about ruling and her tough decision-making stand out because of how effortlessly she captures these emotions. The other actors like Olivia Cooke and Steve Toussaint are also brilliant, and it is not just the Civil War that grabs your attention, but also what these characters like Alicent Hightower and Corlys Velaryon go through in the process. Of course, Matt Smith is terrific as ever as Daemon Targaryen, but reviews suggest that he has mellowed out a lot from the first couple of seasons. The writing of this season has come under some criticism. There have been some concerns about leaving out a couple of big story moments in the first 2 episodes. If you have read the books, you are already coming to season 3 with a lot of baggage. But all the early reviews say the same thing. The narrative is not necessarily faithful to the source material. This might be all the more disappointing when you consider that the showrunner, Ryan Condal, spoke about his commitment to a very faithful adaptation of Fire and Blood in the earlier press conferences. In fact, this has been one of the criticisms that the 3rd season has faced so far. As critic Daniel Roman points out, House of the Dragon seems unable to resist making strange decisions that leave me scratching my head. From those that broke my immersion by making me outright laugh at inappropriate moments, to others which awkwardly try to pay homage to parts of the book to varying degrees of success, to yet others where I caught myself muttering, "What were they thinking?" under my breath as I watched. On the other hand, the review from Mashable.com lays it out very differently. The critic says, "I'm more fascinated at how the writers came to these new arcs than mad at not getting a precise adaptation. I guess it is all about how you look at things here." But all in all, the early reviews are largely positive, and even though the critics only got to see the first 4 episodes, I think it gives a fair idea about the quality of the overall season. As per Travers said, "The biggest questions aren't how it will end, but what will be left when it does." Regret might be an honest takeaway for a war of succession that leaves its house worse off than it was when the fighting began. For all that we know about the future of the Targaryen house, this is probably the most blunt review about the fate of the major characters and houses by the time the season ends. Also, Condal has already said that House of the Dragon will end with season 4, so you know that the story has to be set up for that as well. I cannot wait for these last few days to pass so that I can check out all the action and drama for myself. From all the reviews and the reaction of the critics, I think it is safe to say that we are all set to experience something that fits the legacy of Game of Thrones and the promise of the first season of House of the Dragon. I would love to hear your thoughts on this matter, so tell me in the comments below what you are looking forward to the most this season. Also, if you appreciate the efforts to bring you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.